Hello YouTube, this is HypoMan here, back for episode 5 of Primetime Reviews, and we're going to be doing another little mini-series. I really liked last time just setting aside the Transformers Prime Optimus Primes and going through them one at a time, so I thought I'd do the same for all the video game incarnations of the beloved Boss Bot. So we're going to start with the first video game Prime released in his War for Cybertron vehicle mode. This was in the original wave of generations back when it debuted in, I don't know, 2012, 2013, something like that. But it was one of the first, and it was, along with Bumblebee, one of the first video game Transformers, and I have to say it is still one of the best. Something that happens with Optimus Primes a lot of the time is they're expected to get the best figures. The best vehicles, the best figures, the best accessories, the best transformations, all of it. And to a great extent they do. A lot of the figures I have here are very high quality, even if they weren't just Optimus Primes, but there's something about this character that makes it so that he always has to have really high quality stuff. And this one, I gotta tell you, is one of my absolute favorites. His vehicle mode here is Cybertronian, War for Cybertron video game and all that. I cannot tell you if it is especially accurate. I am not much of a video gamer, and though I played through a couple levels and I watched people play through more of them, I did not play through the whole game. So I don't have as much experience with the in-game models as an avid fan would. But I can tell you that this is very nice. We'll start off at the front. You can see it's modeled after some kind of truck-like vehicle. We've got a bumper here with some headlights, a grille here, windshield's very set back inside all this layering, which is really cool. I like the layered panels in here. It really helps this thing look unique. On top here we've got another light in that pink, kind of pinkish, orangish color that's all over these toys to mimic that sort of neon laser light effect that the video game characters had, where they were all, you know, they had all these techie light lines all over them. That continues into the wheels here. The hubcaps have that on the rim. They also have nice silver on the inside with a little star pattern, and they roll very well. All of them do. So he rolls nicely on his 6 wheels, and you can see it follows the Optimus Prime color scheme pretty closely. Red up front, blue in the back, with silver details here and there. We have his smokestacks here angled backwards for speed, as this whole thing is very smooth and aerodynamic, which is nice. Coming around the back, we have some taillights there, and that just about does it. You can see his gun's mounted on top here. Right now it's in the folded up configuration. Truth be told, this gun is just kind of okay. It's a gun accessory, it does what it needs to do. I'm not blown away by this transformation thing. The spring makes it kind of floppy, and this little clip doesn't hold it together all that well. But at least it gives you an option in vehicle mode if you want it mounted the way I just had it, or if you want to fold it out all the way and make it a little more centralized. So that's kind of neat. But we're going to set this off to the side so we can get to the meat of this, which is transformation. Now, this toy is known for having a very complex transformation, and as you know, that is something that is a big buying point for me. I really like complicated, involved transformations, provided they result in something good. You know, I don't just want something with tons and tons of steps and then it turns out to be flimsy and all these panels everywhere and it doesn't look any good. No, I want complicated steps, I want innovative design, and I want it to come out a solid product on either end of the transformation. So something I wanted to point out here is that his head, hands, and feet are all clustered in the middle here. So most of the parts folding around are going to do it following that very classic Optimus Prime transformation. Head's going to come up, arms are going to fold out from the side, and shock of horrors, the back part is going to constitute the legs. But each piece of the transformation, so the leg part, the arm part, the head part, all that, each one of them has its own smaller touches, sub-steps, that really make this transformation memorable, and it is my favorite thing about this toy. So I'm going to stop stalling, and we're going to get into this. So we're going to come up here to this panel, fold it up so it's nice and flush on the top, to reveal some of the transformation joints here. I'm going to be honest with you, One thing that is kind of frustrating about this would be that he's packed together so tightly that you have to be careful about panels and things crashing into each other. It can get a bit cramped, but as long as you do things in the right order, it's not too bad. So we're going to lift up this whole front section here, which is going to allow us to then get to these side panels and just pull these out, which frees up the space for these panels to come out. Are you sensing a pattern here? Now be careful, I've popped this smokestack off here. If I just start yanking on this is on its own hinge to come forward, and you need to do that so that it has clearance to move past there. So we'll do the same on this side, pop that out, and just fold these back out of the way for now. And you can see that these lock together very, very solidly. There's a tab here and a tab here that tab into the slot and just under this panel respectively. So he's bolted together very solidly in vehicle mode. It's not just, you know, that movie accusation of just random panels everywhere to make it look better. No, he is well constructed, which is good. So a neat little touch here. When you fold this back, these rotate around, and this slot is going to fit over this tab. It's just going to cement it in place, nice and sturdy. And I like that a lot. They're using the engineering before, because that's the tab that locks in here. So you're using it again for locking for a different part. It helps make this solid. There's not two separate tabs, there's not two separate slots. It's very efficient. I'm going to keep gushing about this, so be prepared for that. We can finish up the legs on these taillight sections. Fold down and they're going to become his knee pads, which are kind of expected on a lot of Optimus Primes, although it's not one of the key features, I'm just going to point out. And then you can see there's some more of this pink detailing here. Then we're going to come here and separate the legs. Now this piece inside can be tricky. There's this tab that's hooked into this hollow bit. Pulling on it is not a good idea. You want to wiggle this to the side and then pull it out, and that's because, if you can see, it's horizontal. There's no lip or anything, so if you pull, this could get stressed or break. I've never pulled that hard because just yanking on it a little bit, you can feel that it's very, very solid unless you wiggle it a bit. So just be careful. Then we can slide his legs out like this. And then to finish it up, we're going to shuffle these panels around. So these wheels here are on their own hinge. They fold back, and these fold back onto his legs. You can do these at an earlier stage, but I thought I'd just do him section by section. Fold down the toes, and this is a neat touch. His feet are forward here specifically so the toes can fold up flush, but once he's in robot mode, it's hard to balance him because his feet are set so far forward. But there's a hinge on top of the ball joint that lets them be nice and directly under the legs, which really helps with the balance. So that's the lower body all done. And now we're going to get to excuse me. Now we're going to get to the upper body here. So again, we want to make sure this is out of the way. And then what we need to do is work these bits, which are the arms, past these panels. So first, fold these up from where they're tabbed in, out of the way, so we can fold these panels with the wheels on them, out of the way, just like that. And you can see now we've exposed part of the shoulder joint, so we can then fold this down. To do that though, we have to unpeg this panel from here, these sort of wheel well plates, which will become part of his shoulder detailing in a sec. Okay. So that takes care of the arms for now. We're going to straighten them up later once all this clutter is out of the way. And now comes what I think is the coolest part of this whole thing. You're going to come to this chest piece, which just looks like his torso. Doesn't look like you have to do much. But remember, his head is on the bottom here. This whole thing rotates around, and then you invert the entire piece to start plugging in the waist. So the next step here is going to be... Now this is a weird bit of design that I don't entirely understand. He technically has a waist joint. This swivels here. And if I remember correctly from his original instructions, which were thrown out years ago, you're supposed to rotate this around along with this piece. because this piece is on its own separate little ring and will rotate. But there's no reason to do it. If you pull things the right way, this has enough clearance on its own to rotate. So maybe it was just in there for safety reasons, I'm not sure. And I'll bring up in a little bit why this is weird. You're then going to take this and pull it on its little joint until it slides all the way back, giving it enough room to be part of his backpack back here. Okay, now that the torso is all ready to go, you're going to take this whole double hinged bit, sandwich it up there, and then there is a slot here and a tab here that will fit together. Come on, fit together just like this, and then you just cram everything together until it's solid. Fold down this little waist piece, and very nicely these little, I think of them as belt pieces, but they fold around the side so he doesn't have this huge bit of crotch armor sticking off, so it helps him look better. Now we're going to come around and tidy up the arms. So get his elbows out of the way, and then we're going to take these panels, and they just become all nice and snug and part of his shoulder armor. Same thing on this side. Just get these all nice and snug. Then we're going to fold out his hands, and they click into place. And finally, I know you've seen it already, but it doesn't matter because we're going to take a look at it again. We're going to fold up his head, which has already started coming up, which kind of sucks. And that clicks in. And get him in a nice, heroic stance here. And there we have War for Cybertron Optimus Prime in his very, very nicely solid, bulky, powerful, heroic-looking robot mode. Sorry about that, guys. Bringing him very close to the camera before made him fall over, and he was banging in the camera, and just didn't work out too well. One of those reasons is that, unfortunately, his solidity and his bulkiness can sometimes play against him. His hips are ball joints, and with all this plastic down here, and I guess time to wear them away, his hips have gotten a tad loose, which means sometimes he will just fall over if you don't have him planted right. Although, now he is behaving himself, so whatever. But the detail I was starting to talk about was his head, and this is really, really cool. I like how they took advantage of, on the source material, the fact that this is a video game set pre-G1, and they took that into account, and they made him look younger for a robot, I mean, but it's cool how they accomplished that. His horns here, these little earpieces, are longer than they usually are, and his head as a whole is rounder than the G1, so you can sort of assume, or I guess extrapolate from that, you know, the elements have worn down his horns and have worn down the edges on his head to make it blockier, or however you want to say that. But it is very cool, and he has some awesomely scowling eyes. So let's do a light piping test on that here. And you can see beautiful, beautiful light piping. Very, very nice. Glows nice and bright. And this is one of those figures that has the light piping plastic molded so that it comes out the top of his head, not the back. And I like when they do this on figures. It's surprisingly effective, especially when they've got stuff behind their heads. As long as you get them underneath a light source, it makes a lot more sense for getting their eyes to light up than having it behind them. Because for ones with weaker light piping, you would have had to hold them under a light like this for it to get to the back of their head. So I'm a big fan of the light piping in the top of the skull thing. Excuse me. Okay, so we're going to work our way down. As you can see, his head is ball jointed. It's a little bit loose. The ball joints on him haven't held up all that well. So you'll see his head flopping around from time to time. As which is a bit of a shame, but, you know, you can get it to move where you need it to move, so I don't really care. His chest here is the traditional Optimus Prime window chest, but thanks to those layered panels from his vehicle mode, you actually expose new detail here without having to cheat any of the transformation. You get some new headlight details, you get some nice lines going through this silver. There's actually these pink details everywhere. They're in his Autobot symbols, they're in these little circles. You can see here he's got abs in his abdomen and this waist piece that we saw in transformation. Coming back up to his arms, they have this this hinge here. It's a transformation hinge, but it can be used for his arms. He has a mushroom cap swivel all the way around. He also has a, is this a hinge? I think it's a hinge. A hinge shoulder up and down. And unfortunately, for as cool as these shoulder pads look, they're not the kind that can get out of the way all that well. So the only way to move his shoulder all the way up is to get that out of the way, which is a little bit annoying, but at the same time, I don't think I really need him to be able to do that. To here is a fairly natural range. He has a bicep swivel. He's got 90-degree elbows, which this is a bit weird. He has great proportions. Like you can see, he's very natural. It looks like his hands just about reach the top of his knees, which is accurate. But the fact that this part of the arm, the elbow region, is so short means that when he bends his elbow, his arms suddenly look very short and very stumpy, which is unfortunate because he has all these really cool, you know, solid, blocky shapes, and that can work against him a little bit. And he's got wrist swivels. Unfortunately, the way this is molded, you can't turn them much more to the side than that, but going in the other direction, they spin around that much, so you get some nice range out of those. And if you really want, you can disengage this and have him tilt his wrist down, although it is supposed to click solidly into place. So let's move down to the abdomen here, where we hit that weird waist joint I was talking about. If you remember, in the transformation, all this pegs together. You can't twist him at the waist without disengaging this whole thing. And it swivels independently of this piece. And I guess you can reposition this, like the waist piece, a little bit if you want him turning his waist, but it's something that's intentionally blocked off during the transformation, and I don't know why. Everything else on him is well designed, and that just seems overlooked. I don't know. He's got hips, ball-jointed hips, the weak ones from before. They go forwards and backwards and out to the side, and unlike the abdomen section, this bit, the skirt, can actually get out of the way. It has its own hinge. Separate from the ab piece that can fold up and allow you to bring his hips all the way forward, which is nice. You then have a thigh swivel up here. You have double jointed knees, as long as you're okay with these wheels moving out of the way, which is nice. And then we have those ball jointed feet from before, which tilt a little bit in every direction. They can spin around, and if you extend them all the way down sort of to the bottom of the range of this joint, you can get some deeper tilting, I guess, out of it. Or you can bring it all the way forward and use his toes a little bit and do whatever you need to. I'm not going to do crazy poses with this guy because his hip joint won't allow it, unfortunately. But yes, this is War for Cybertron Optimus Prime in his robot mode, looking very, very nice, very, very clean. And we need to hit one more detail back here before we get into his gun accessory, and that would be this Autobot symbol molded onto his back. I'm assuming this is kind of like a tattoo on him, or these are tattoos. I've never been clear about how these work. If you watch Transformers Prime, it's just kind of like laser etched on there. But if you watch, say, Beast Wars, it's part of their mechanics. They can just change them at will. And if you watch Transformers Energon, it's like a brand on your soul. Watch Improzoned Inferno to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, he's got this molded on here. It's a little bit deformed, but you can tell it's the Autobot symbol. And Megatron, the other deluxe leader, War for Cybertron Megatron, also has a Decepticon symbol molded on his back, although he doesn't have a panel back there, so it's exposed. So that's a neat little bit of bonus detail in there. I like it. So let's give him his gun and see how the poses look with a weapon. So this is his gun right here. I folded it back up so we can take a look first at storage. This panel that folded up onto his back has a little tab inside it, which will tab into a slot on the gun. And if I can get this in one take without the gun unfolding on me, I would really appreciate it. Because as I complained a little bit before, the spring on this likes to go off, the latch likes to come undone. There we go. So you can see it tapped into his back. You can tab it in the other direction, but then the barrel of the gun sticks down between his legs. Although it can come loose and look a tad weird. But if you just leave it there, it's fine. You can give this to him in a variety of ways. There's holes on either one of these wheels. I'm guessing for storage. I really don't like this spring mechanism. It just goes off all the time and you can't control it, especially when you're trying to keep everything in shot. But you can store the guns on here. I like to think of this as a way to like shoulder mount a gun. You know, get one on each side here. Although he only comes with the one. And he has peg holes on the sides of his arms. So you can take this, mount it all the way inside, give him a forearm mounted gun, and of course he can hold it because it's a gun, and that's what you do. You hold guns. And for all my complaints about the spring-loaded mechanism, it does look good in his hand. It's a nice size. And he can do the only pose I really care about with a gun, which is the arm crossed slightly across the body, gun rotated around, other hand bracing the bottom of the barrel, and Prime looking like he is about to spray you down with bullets, or lasers, or whatever this gun shoots. And there you have it. This guy is very cool. Again, he's all about the transformation. So if this is something you're into, then you are into complex transformations that still yield very solid robots and vehicles. Highly recommended this guy. I really don't know what else to say about how much I like it. It's very cool. It is very much an Optimus Prime, and it fits the trend. This is a very, very good deluxe toy. If this was another character, so let's take another truck guy, like if they did Cup, let's say, or Ironhide in the War for Cybertron games, and they took like a pickup truck and made it into this kind of vehicle mode and then gave this body to that character, not as a repaint, like if this was originally that character, it would still be a really good toy. But as an Optimus Prime, it fits the standard of excellent toys, and that sort of caps off the first part of this discussion. So this is War for Cybertron Deluxe Optimus Prime, and we have a sequel to get to next. He's from the first game, and after the war, Cybertron fell. So when we come back next time, we're going to move into sequel games and sequel figures, and we're going to see how sometimes Optimus Prime can be a bit disappointing, even if his toy is actually good. So this is Hypo Man here, signing off with Transformers Deluxe Class Generations War for Cybertron Optimus Prime. And with all these wheels on his back, you can actually go street lugeing pretty well. So here's a robot that rolls well in his robot mode. So he's going to go off and win the big race. And I'll see you next time. And here we have our newest addition to the Optimus Prime shelf. You can see that we are growing in numbers, and we have beaten level 1. So we have our first video game guy up there. Don't mind her, she's just crashing for the weekend. So thank you very much for watching.